Question two.
Yes.
What was your opinion of when they decided to make a sci-fi movie based after your expedition to see the Mongolian death worm?
First of all, I'm feeling ripped off a lot lately. If we can talk just between us for a second. I felt like, did anybody watch that show, The River?
Yeah.
The opening episode of that show, I think there was actual footage lifted from the episode. And then that same guy went and made that Chernobyl Diaries movie. Very, very suspicious about that. And then there have been a number of sci-fi original movies. There's been some Yeti hunting and Mongolian death worms, and no, those I think are, you know, you have to sort of love those movies. You know, no, I don't feel infringed upon in any way. Except by the shit in the river, which I felt like.
Hey, I'm Mike. Hey, I'm doing like survival type vlog, and I was wondering, you've been all over the world. Have you ever been in true survival? You didn't have access to.
Like, you know, like I'm eating members from my plane and aliens kind of thing? I'm talking to a soccer ball? No, I mean, look, we've never, I think, had the floor fallout so bad on Destination Truth that we were, you know, trying to build a shelter in the jungle when we, you know. I think one of the things that we have a sort of a bunch of camera equipment to protect. So we're always mindful of keeping some layer of safety, and you know, you have to stay. You can go off the grid, but you need a piece of the grid with you, or you need to be able to get back to it, you know, fairly quickly. I'm not really a survivalist, you know. I draw a pretty honest distinction between me and the Bear Grylls and Les Strouds of the world. You know, those guys are amazing. But if you put me and Les Stroud and Bear Grylls out in the wilderness, I don't know that I would be one of the three of us coming back. Yeah, I'm not really a survivalist. I'm more of an enthusiast. No, but I will say I'm constantly impressed by it. You know, one of the things that we talk a lot about on the show is like we'll get into these countries and I'll just meet people who can just rig things or tie knots or you know, we worked with these guys in Papua New Guinea. We did an episode and we were establishing a kind of base camp area, which we always do, and we found kind of a clearing, and we had a few locals with us with just machetes, and I had a translator with me, and I said, okay, well, I'm going to go get these cameras set up over here, and the translator said, the locals want to know if they can do anything, and I said, well, yeah, we just kind of need like a rock or something to like put a case on and somewhere to sit, and they, you know, yeah, if they want to help, like, you know, and I went away for like 5 minutes, and I came back, and it was like Gilligan's Island. Bamboo is like an incredibly useful thing, and these guys had taken bamboo. I mean, there was a table, there were chairs with like legs and backs. It was insane. I'd never seen anything like it. And so I'm constantly impressed by people who have really, you know, intense jungle survival skills. I don't, and I try to pick them up wherever I can.
And one last thing.
Sure. Here. Oh my God, he's gonna shoot. Oh, thank you so much for not shooting. How are you?
Big fans here, but gotta ask two questions. Recently, y'all went on a trip to Transylvania.
Yes.
Up in the mountains there, down in the caves, all that bunch of fun.
Yes.
With the funds, guys that you asked to go over, really excited about now cave bear.
Uh-huh.
Did you keep that?
I did not keep that. I wanted to keep that and did not. I know. I wasn't aware at the time it was going to turn out to be from this awesome extinct animal. That happens sometimes. I don't have a computer, too, unfortunately. I look back at that with some regret. Thank you for reminding me.
Second question. When you're out there and you're setting up all your infrared cameras, set up trap cameras,
We do set up more. That's a fair question. We do set up more. We usually, part of the problem is you have to travel with them all. So, you know, there's only so many can sort of fit in the case. So we travel with about 10 of them now. the purposes of not boring the audience, we don't say like, I'm setting up trap camera 19, trap camera 20 is a go, trap camera 54. But you're right, I would do 1,000. And you know, every year the wireless stuff gets better and better, and it happens fast. So you know, even the gear we have now is so much better in terms of trap camera stuff than we had in the beginning. And now they can do full HD, motion activated, beautiful, and really, really crisp stuff. So they're getting better and better and smaller and smaller. We'll take more. Hello.
Hi, I'm Beth. Of all the animals you've investigated, which one do you think is the most outrageous claim?
I think there's a few. There's a chupacabra, though, is like the thing about the chupacabra is like you do have a bunch of chicken pens with dead animals in them, so it's like at least there's a predator on the move there. Some of them I feel like there's not even necessarily a real story attached. They're just things that kind of exist in legend. That there's a great story in Brazil about this thing called the Mapiguari, which is like a creature with it's got a mouth in the middle of its stomach. Already very plausible, plausible. It's got a mouth in the middle of its stomach, and it's something that I don't think there are a lot of real, credible eyewitness accounts, associated with. The werewolf is probably up there for me. The lobezhone, yeah. The vampire for me, probably not. Probably not real. I think that usually there's a clear delineation between stuff that people that are having real experiences and things that feel like myths or legends, things that are passed down. But I think a lot of those ones that kind of smack the head, are probably outrageous. But there's still, I think, cool stories and important stories.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, I'm Phoenix.
Yes.
One of the things I've noticed on Sci-Fi Channel especially, it seems like as soon as you get a show that is doing really well,
Here we go.
and people are really enjoying it, all of a sudden that's the last season. And I know that
Like what? Give me some other examples of sci-fi shows that went before their time.
Eureka was one that was
Stargate Atlantis.
Yes. But had a good run, right? You're reading 7 seasons, 8 seasons.
5.
Almost not remember.
We had 8 episodes.
Yeah, but what I was asking was, I know there's thousands of different cultures, and they all have their creatures and monsters. Does it look like this is something that would be sustainable without really having to go out on a limb to find something to investigate?
I think it is sustainable show. I think that there's no shortage of sightings and people around the world having experiences they can't explain. Our show is probably 60-40 crypto stuff and paranormal stuff, and certainly paranormal stuff, that's an endless well. There are people all over the world claiming to have experiences with ghosts. So that's a very deep well in general. We've never felt concerned that we were going to run out of stories to tell. The one challenging part of Destination Truth is it takes a little too long to make. It's hard to crank out 20 episodes of that show in a season because we have to travel to all these places and you have to spend a week or more in each place, and that slows down, production a bit. So I think that that's the one thing that one of the things that could, I think, doom Destination Truth is just this idea that it's hard to make. But I think in terms of content and story, we can make the show forever again. And in terms of why popular shows go away on sci-fi, I will say, in fairness to, they have an anklet, which electrocutes me if I say anything. One of the VPs at Sci-Fi, a guy named Craig Engler, he is the one who runs their Twitter feed, which is just @Sci-Fi. And I have to hand it to Craig. He is a super hands-on guy who will answer questions from fans and try to explain some of what goes into those decisions. Because I agree, I think a lot of those, as a fan, because I'm a huge fan of Sci-Fi, of the genre and the channel, and yeah, some of those decisions feel nuts to me, you know what I mean? Like, I look at things like Battlestar, which is a show that I love, and I felt like that didn't need to go away when it went away. But there's a lot of stuff that's kind of, it's a little sad, but it's like, this is a business, and these are things that have to earn a profit, and there's advertising concerns, and there's viewership concerns, and all those things are separate from how much we love a show, right? And I have to hand it to Craig, who's really, there's even a couple of, there's a thread that he references a couple times about what goes into that decision, and he breaks that down for people. But I think largely it comes down to whether or not they feel financially like it's sustainable, and if it's being sustained by viewership. And I'm with you though, and it's not just sci-fi, that can be a frustrating feeling everywhere. There's plenty of shows that I think deserve, there's plenty of shows that maybe don't deserve as much time as they have, and there's shows that, like I don't think we need more 2.5 Men, really. I'm with you, maybe we do.
No.
But that's what it comes down to. It's one of those things that's well above my pay grade. I mean, it's a decision that is worked out by a lot of people in advertising and looking at minute by minute statistics. That's a scary. I mean, one of the things that's terrifying is that, like, we'll do an episode of Destination Truth, and then they will look at their printouts of how many people are watching the show minute by minute. And then they will say, well, a significant amount of people went away right at this moment, and what was happening right at that moment. And they'll put in these charts, like, so when Josh did this, did that happen. So, you can noodle that information to death, and I think that, look, if the numbers don't bear out in a series favor, unfortunately, it goes away. But I'm with you. I think that there's plenty of things that have kind of gone before their time.
One other thing, do you ever